Hi, hello, welcome to Directly to You. It's episode 235 of our podcast. We are Redirect. I am AJ of Redirect. I'm joined by Parker, also of Redirect. Here we do stuff and whatnot. You know what? Let's just get into topics, and then after the first topic, I want to try doing housekeeping. How about that? How about we do that? Let's try that. Like a plan. We're going to talk about freaking Pokemon Day, dude, and also Mario Day. Pokemon Day. It happened.
It sure did.
It was a thing that happened. So when did you watch it? Did you watch it like as it was getting streamed, or did you watch it?
Yeah, Ezra for some reason slept in that morning. So it was 8 a.m. for me, and she just happened to sleep in so I was like, cool. So I told Ashley, I was like, hey, tomorrow there's like Pokemon thing in the morning, Pokemon Direct, if you want to watch it too. So she was just kind of getting ready, kind of half watching it as I was watching it. And I told her, I was like, there's a couple things that could happen there that would be really exciting. But also, who's to say? Because it could just be like Pokemon Go update and Pokemon Unite update and Pokemon this update and Pokemon that. So it was kind of the latter. We'll talk about it.
I'd say it was somewhere in the middle. It was somewhere in the middle. It was what I expected to happen. Like the like,
not what I wanted, but what I expected. It was the baseline of what I expected.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. Like, I mean, at the end of the day, like the bare minimum expectation where I walk away and I'm fine with it was that we saw something about like what's next for Scarlet and Violet in terms of like whether that was going to be DLC or like a third game or whatever that was. We did get that. Well, I mean, we'll get to it. Granted, I don't really want to. I talked about this event in depth. On Flip Screen Games, so like we don't gotta do the whole thing in terms of like my thoughts on it if you don't really want to do that. So we could talk about the stuff that you find to be interesting or whatever that is. But for me,
I'd say go for it.
I was just going to say the long and short of it is like this is fine. I think that like the backlash for this is like overblown and kind of weird because it's like people are mad at an expectation that they set there, and they're like, that's fine or whatever, I guess, but it's weird to be mad about something that only you promised yourself, as if it was promised to you by the entity that you're angry with. Like that, you're just having an argument with yourself at that point. It's very strange, in my opinion.
I think a good healthy middle ground is fine and okay and good, where like the difference between expectations and hopes, and that like if they manage to reach the hopes, that's awesome, but like still kind of knowing what the baseline expectation is at the bottom of that. I don't know, but it's a tough thing. They don't owe us anything, but at the same time, like, why bother doing an event if it's not going to be worth something? So it's a bit wishy-washy there. So, but I definitely don't feel like it's right to be like mad about it. I think just like it's fine to be disappointed and be like, man, would have loved to have more. Like that's fine, but like how dare you do this to me? Like that's a little bit tanky.
That's into the other side. That's like okay. That you're throwing everything out of whack with like how the reaction manifests. Like I was talking about this a little bit on Twitter, where it's like I don't have a problem with people having like being disappointed. It's what disappointment means now on the internet,
right?
That I have a problem with. Like I'm disappointed all the time. Have a whole YouTube channel because I be disappointed. Like that's why I'm here. But the difference is like I at least try to have some nuance with those takes. It's not always all positive and it's not always all negative. But when people have these takes about these directs or these state of plays or these it's either all negative or it's all positive. There is rarely any in between. And the difference of what makes something negative or positive is rarely quantity, but when people talk about them negatively, it becomes about quantity, which then I think lends even less credence to the argument that people are trying to make when a thing is negative, because the only thing that actually happened here, the only missing component here is that person's personal taste. Because like I'm positive that there's somebody that popped off when they saw Pokemon Concierge. You know, when they saw the Pokemon Classic set, they were like, that's the hypest thing they've ever seen Pokemon do in years. You know, but like because somebody came into the direct with the expectation that they're going to get to play Pokemon Yellow for the 4,000th time on a new platform, it was the worst thing in the world. Like,
yeah,
like we got to be realistic here.
Yeah, and it's kind of the Smash problem where it feels like Smash takes a slot in a direct when it's like, no, it just otherwise wouldn't have been there.
It wouldn't have had anything.
Right. But if you don't care about Smash, then there is a feeling of that. So I think similarly, in terms of this direct specifically, it wasn't very new game heavy, which, is what it is, but it makes it feel like
that's the other thing that's crazy to me though, because the same people that are upset that there's no new game complain about how quote unquote rushed every new game is. So
for what it's worth, I don't mean like new generation by any means. I mean like it wasn't very video game heavy with the exception of updates to pre-existing games.
Pokemon
so
Day.
but even like remakes or
Pokemon
like whatever. True. Yeah, exactly. And that's that's obviously a big part of it. But yeah, for me specifically, the part that I would be most excited about is, I like the video game side of things and I like Pokemon and stuff. So things within that realm would have been the most exciting for me. But all that to say, the Smash effect or whatever, or the, is that Pokemon Go, Pokemon Unite, Pokemon Cafe Remix and stuff like that. Those things feel like they're taking the like Pokemon video game slots that something else should be taking. And I just don't think something else would be taking them in this case.
That's just not how it works. Like, I don't know if you saw it, but I made a tweet before. Like, I want to say, like, when they first announced it, so where I was like, this is not only for you. It's not even only for me, and like, I'm a pretty big Pokemon fan. But these events are not Nintendo Directs. They're not. And even Nintendo Directs aren't for every Nintendo fan. They are trying to reach all different types of fans. And with Pokemon specifically, not only are they trying to reach different kind of gamers, they're trying to reach different kind of people, Like, some of these announcements are, like, equally intended for people that would never touch a Pokemon video game, as they are for people that are obsessed with them,
Yeah.
So it's like I get the idea of like wanting certain things, and like whoever, I'm not even like trying to direct this towards you. But like whoever feels any type of way about, oh well, I didn't get enough of the announcements that I wanted. It's like, well, yeah, you didn't. You came to the wrong place for that, guy. Like. You came to freaking PF Chang's hoping for 5-star Chinese food. Like,
I mean, I hear that, but at the same time, it's not that it's the wrong place for where those things are to happen so much. Because like, if there's going to be a new Pokemon game announced, this is the place where it would be, but it's just the wrong place to expect it all the time. I don't know how to frame that exactly right.
But I'm saying right place, right place and time, I should say. Like, because we just got the new game. The new game literally just happened. So, and like, they already set the expectation a long time ago that like we're not going to get a whole new generation immediately after we get the first generation. The expectation has been set for decades that like remakes, they don't really happen in this way, like we're not going to like, they're not just throwing out old Pokemon games on every platform. Like the ones that we got are the exception, not the other way around.
Honestly, I think the only thing that I would have that would have made it be, well, I mean, we can talk about the details a little bit more. We won't go too far into it, like you said, because you talked on the Flip Screen Games podcast. Everybody go listen to that because it's fun and good. But for me, it's like spin-off game something. Although, now that you mentioned Pokemon Concierge, I'd forgotten about that. It's not a game, but I like the idea, and that's pretty fun. But something of that exact caliber just in the game quadrant, and I would have been very happy. And then the other thing is just that, like, I think the DLC, like, that'll be really cool. But they did the same thing that they did with the Crown Tundra and Isle of Armor stuff, where it was just, we don't know a whole lot about it. And so it's hard to get, like,
because it doesn't come out for a long
that
time.
excited. Yeah, right, exactly. But, you know, in terms of, like, if the goal is excitement, then, like, confirmation of it is great. But as far as, like, my personal level of excitement, not very. Just in that, you know, it is what it is. But I'm still playing the game, so it's like more promise of more of the game isn't like a super exciting thing because I'm still in it. Whereas if I were done with it and at the point where you are, in terms of like, you know, that kind of thing, then that would be different and like new experiences. And the same way, you know, like Crown Tundra and Isle of Armor were exciting because they added things that you ended up doing, like the Dynamax Adventures and stuff like that. Like that's most of what you ended up doing for months and years to come after that.
Yeah, like literally still
similarly,
doing them. Like after a whole new generation has come out, still go back to Sword and Shield because of that.
Yep. So hopefully, you know, this will add similarly, you know, more longevity and stuff like that.
Right.
But yeah, overall for me, I think I was pretty underwhelmed in terms of or not underwhelmed, just more like wasn't particularly excited by just about anything. The one thing I do think we need to talk about Pokemon Sleep.
This was another thing that was crazy to me.
It's so funny
this was
that it finally came back.
Because the internet gaslit themselves into thinking that they were excited for this. And then when it got announced, they were mad that it got announced. Like,
I thought everybody was like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like meme excited for it. That's not the right word, but like fake excited for it. You know what I mean? Did people think they were like legitimately excited?
It was given Waluigi and Smash Brothers.
Yeah.
That's the vibe
exactly.
I was getting. Where like towards the beginning it was like, oh my god, you know, Vitality Sensor. It had also that trajectory, you know,
totally.
Where like had Pokemon Sleep got canceled, if that was the announcement that we got, people would be rioting right now. But we got the confirmation of Pokemon Sleep, and people are like, for real? All we got was Pokemon Sleep? It's like, bro, what do you want?
It reminds me of Morbius in the way that
1,000,000%
and then,
Morbius.
Like they actually brought it back to theaters, and people were like, no, we didn't really want it again.
This.
I was totally kidding.
100%.
Which is really funny to me.
But it feels, feels different. Because like it's kind of like people come in like went into like Pokemon Presents like this one and be like another year that we don't get Pokemon Sleep. That's a long time to meme, you know. That's a long time. Like Morbius is just like people making like tongue-in-cheek jokes that I don't even get how Sony misread that as excitement.
Seriously,
like people are very clearly making fun of you. And you're like, oh yeah, people really want. They literally just looked at Google Trends. They were like, oh, a lot of people were talking about Morbius. You know, it's like you don't got to just look at like Google Trends to know that like
context is everything.
Yeah,
guys.
exactly. Like I saw YouTube videos of people like and countdowns like days without Pokemon. So, you know, like that type of stuff. It's like, all right, whatever.
That's
like
so funny.
I don't really care if people are excited for it or not because I'm not excited for it. I don't care about Pokemon Sleep. I don't sleep. So like, whatever. But it's just weird that people like go through these weird cycles of like, come on, man. Like, do we got to be mad about everything? Do we have to perpetually be angry all the time?
Yep. Yeah, it is funny, but yeah, as far as like, Pokemon Sleep, they talked about it for so long, and it's just so funny. But like, you know, maybe that's a whole new craze and a whole new something. I will not. I guess. I can't remember. Do you have to use? No, you don't have to use the thing.
You don't have to use
you just say when you're going to sleep and when you wake up, and I don't understand how it tracks anything. I don't know. It's going to just tell me I snore a lot because Ashley tells me that already. So now we know. But yeah, what a silly thing to spend so much time on. But cool, you know, it is what it is. I think I definitely talked myself into believing that the Game Boy game stuff was going to happen.
It was all because of the Japan thing of them taking out.
It was. Did you see? It was partly that.
Did you?
And
see
then it was
the,
also. I think. Sorry, go ahead.
Did you see that they re-uploaded?
They added it back in.
Yeah. Yep.
So it was less that specifically for me. I'm sure that contributed. I think the main thing to me was like, why did they announce Game Boy games exactly when they did? Because this and that and like blah blah. It's something along that sort of a thing. Which now I'm still conspiracy theorizing in my head about like, well, so they did that. So now that means. Who's to say?
I mean, I could still see it happening. Like, I don't think like it happening on Pokemon Day means that it won't happen.
I think it will happen, but I think now it's going to be quite a bit further down the road. Like, it's going to be an ace up their sleeve for a later time instead of like a 1-2 punch right now or something like that. Like I kind of was thinking.
I mean, they could do whatever. There's conspiracy theories happening within the Pokemon community right now. That the reason why we're not immediately getting Pokemon Home or getting Pokemon Home as soon as we normally would, because that's usually we're in the time frame that usually happens for a new generation. It's because they're having problems with integrating it, either with Scarlet and Violet for some reason, or specifically with the older games, with like integrating them with Stadium and also with like how they all work in between all of that stuff. I don't know if I buy that, but like if that's the case, cool, I guess. It's worth noting that like Pokemon Worlds is another place where they usually like to have these types of like, they have like an opening ceremony, closing ceremony, and they usually have some sort of announcements there. Like that's what. And
sometimes they'll have a Pokemon Direct kind of a thing, or a Pokemon Presents like in May, a little bit before E3 time.
I think I think that's just when there's a new generation.
Okay, gotcha.
Either a new generation or some sort of new game. They'll do it around that time frame. But
yeah,
and also, I mean, for what it's worth, they could do that. I don't think it'll be in May. I think May's a little too early. But we're going to get another Presents for the DLC, and the DLC is happening later than Sword and Shield's DLC did, so that's also worth noting. Which that's another thing that feels like, I mean, obviously they probably kicked it down the pike for technical issues that they were having and like trying to fix those, and maybe I talked about it on Flip Screen Games podcast or Nintendo Noise. Like this, they found, because they went to go fix problems that they had in the original game, I could see them like sprouting up new problems in the DLC, and then like that all snowballing. So like instead of it being a summer release and a fall winter release like it was with Sword and Shield, which I think it was like June and October or something like that. Now we're getting fall and winter, which is probably going to be like, like I wouldn't even be surprised to see it be something like late September and like November, February. December. February would be crazy because they did say 2023.
So that's the thing. I was thinking about that. I don't know that when they say winter of a certain year, I think sometimes they mean winter of the fiscal year such and such or whatever. And I don't know. I feel like it depends from company to company, but I just know enough times that I've seen Nintendo be like winter, blah, blah, blah. And it's like coming close to holiday season. I'm like, where is the announcement for it? And then it'll end up coming out in winter. But I'm like, you said winter 2021 and it's technically 2022 now or something along those lines.
I feel like they kind of do like, not the opposite of that, but an entirely different thing than that, where they're like spring 2020 and it comes out in late January.
Late June.
No, not even that. Like it comes out earlier than that. Whereas like in terms of like their quarters, this would be like the first 3 quarters of this calendar year. So to them, the first quarter of a calendar year is spring, and then the second one is summer, and then like that's how it works. Rather than it being like, well, technically February is winter. Like
it seems like the truth is that they are just going to use whatever words sound good, and then whatever release
they'll
date
figure
works.
it out later.
It seems like, and if there's a mismatch, like whatever, like you're getting the thing when you're getting the thing. But yeah, so we'll put a pin in that thing because that's going to come back up in a later topic. From that. But all that to say, Pokemon Presents,
it was fine.
Not particularly exciting in my opinion, but we know some stuff, so there it is. Mario Day, on the other hand, is coming around the corner, and it's the most exciting day that there's ever been.
Is it truly?
No, but so there's a couple of new things happening around that for us, and then some other new things that are nice for not us, like you can get we talked about it last week as being rumored, and now it's officially a thing, is there's a Nintendo Switch bundle. So it's $300 for the Nintendo Switch plus either. And for the record, so we were both right.
This is the red box Switch, not the OLED.
Not the OLED. Exactly. Yeah. Yes. And it does come with the red Joy-Cons that I think are the Mario Odyssey Joy-Cons originally.
I think so. They might
it's like that color
because there's like this whole thing. I remember Bob tweeting about it a while ago. Yeah. But the reds are like all like slightly different reds. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. If
maybe this is another new one.
I was about to say I wouldn't be surprised if this is slightly different from those.
That would be hilarious. Could be. But yeah, it's last week we were like, I don't know what game could come with it, and you were like Mario Odyssey, and I was like, yeah, or maybe New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe. And we're like, maybe just Mario Kart 8 again. So it's one of your choice of any of those three. So we were right across the board. That's nice. Oh no, maybe I didn't say U Deluxe. I think I might have said.
I think you said 3D World. You said 3D World.
3D World. Mm-hmm. So I was wrong in that case, and that would have been a better,
I think 3D World
third one in my opinion. But
get whatever. Mario Kart out of here. I'm over it. Stop.
Honestly, it should have been those. Yeah, instead of Mario Kart.
Jesus Christ.
People just keep maybe buying Mario. But in any case, that's fun, and especially there's a sticker kit from the Super Mario Bros. Movie that's in there, and that movie is gonna be coming out 2 days earlier than it was supposed to.
It's Switch, and their Switch is going to look stupid
April
and tacky.
I wonder, is that I don't think that I've ever. Oh no, that's not true. I had my PS1 in 2003 or something. I had a ton of stickers on it, and then
I'm fine with one sticker. Like Bob has the Apple sticker that they give you freaking a whole bunch of Apple stickers. He has that on his dock. I'm fine with that. But doing the Pokemon Scarlet special edition amount of stickers, it's crazy.
That's where my PS1 was. And then I gave it to I just wasn't playing it very much. And I think, okay. Here's the whole saga. Here we go. Had it when we lived in France and we were moving away from France. So I was 10, and I gave it and my N64 to my friend Mathieu, and I was like, hey, keep this in all my games, and I'll be back in 2 years because then we're moving back here. So we, went to the States. We were there 2 years. We came back and ended up moving to Belgium instead of France. But I came back and I was like, hey, Mathieu, how's it going? And I was like, do you have, who's Maxime? Sorry. And I was like, do you have my N64 and PS1 and all my games? And he was like, well, I sold most of them.
Oh my God.
So that's toxic.
Wait, why didn't you just take it with you?
Because you can't use them in the States. It's
PAL
and all that. But also... it could have just brought it. I think we had limited storage space or something, and it was kind of just use it while I'm gone, kind of, trying to be nice or something. But he also had an N64, and he also had a PS1, and had probably a lot of the same games, so he didn't need them, but I just figured, just hold on to them. He sold most of the games, and then so I had my N64 and PS1, and very few games left when I came back. So I took those, and I played them and stuff. The saga gets longer. I'm going to try to keep it short. But for the PS1, after a while, I was like, I'm not playing this anymore. I basically only had Crash Bandicoot on it and just wasn't playing it often enough to warrant anything. And so my friend James was like, hey, we have a garage sale coming up or something like that. Do you have anything you want me to sell? And I was like, you can sell this PS1 if you want. And I was like, but don't take less than $20. And he came back the next day or week or whatever, and he was like, So, yeah, my mom sold it for $5.
That's crazy.
So he gave me the five. I mean, it was euros, but whatever. I was like, okay, thanks, man. So PS1's gone. Had a GameCube, the N64, and all that stuff. Years later, skipping a whole bunch of time, is my parents' apartment has a garage that they share with other people, and they had a trunk with lots of things in it, including lots of like memorabilia stuff and N64, GameCube, all the European games that I had, which is not that many, but some. And somebody left the garage door open, and somebody walked by and stole it. So those games are all gone, and it's sad because I don't have like many things from my childhood anymore, but things are not what define us, or some positive message that.
Physical games are permanent or something like that. So.
Yeah, exactly. So what a time. That's the saga. All that to say, you can get a Switch with Mario if you want on it. Moving right along.
They also announced that anything to do.
I don't know. We got there some stickers. That was it. It was the stickers for the PS1.
Yeah.
So yeah, speaking of the stickers for the Mario movie, they also will have a new trailer for the Mario movie. That's fun. It's I think the last trailer they said, or the first like full trailer or something like that.
Thought we already got.
Did they say?
I mean, we got like they're like we got full trailers. Those are trailers, man. Last trailer would make sense. How they define. I mean, well, actually, no, it wouldn't, because it's supposed to be on Mario Day. They usually do like last March trailers 9th. like 2 weeks or something like that before a movie comes out, right? Maybe even a week before.
I don't.
But I don't know. Nintendo never made a movie before. So, setting their own precedent, I guess.
Yep. I'm trying to find the article that actually talks about that, but I don't care enough. So neat. There's going to be a new trailer that day. And then otherwise, other Mario Day things that are happening are there's a new wave of levels in your favorite game ever that you still play all the time, and you hug it and kiss it every night. It's Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. I think selection looks pretty good for the most part. There's 3 that I'm quite excited about, and the other ones I feel kind of medium about. Don't really know them particularly well, so whatever. But Wii DK Summit and New Yoshi's Island looks cool, and also Waluigi Stadium. Those 3, good old, they're looking good.
They said, and then the other characters.
And Bird. Oh yeah, they
said characters.
Yep. So
I don't know
Birdo's
if that
coming,
means
and
the
then
different
they also
color
said,
Birdo. Like if that's like a technicality.
Oh, that's true. I doubt it. I feel like probably it does mean that like the last 2 waves will also each get characters with it. Somebody like made a decent point of, for some reason, Diddy Kong and
I was going to say Diddy Kong not
Pauline
being in the game be stupid. It's already stupid that he's not currently in the video game.
Also true.
Diddy Kong should be in the game, and like Pauline is less stupid because like Pauline wasn't really a thing in freaking 2014, 2015 when the video game mattered. I mean, she was a thing, but she's not a thing, a thing TM. Yeah. She existed, but
since
nobody cared about her.
Mario Odyssey, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Now that people care about her and they're putting her in most of the video games, they could add her to this one too, and that'd be cool. When I'm forced to play it every 2-3 months or so for these waves, that will be some level of comfort. I'll still be tight, but I'll be like 5% less angry if they at least add Diddy Kong into the video game.
There it goes. So yeah, that's Mario Day. It's happening next week. So we'll talk about what happens next week once it's happening.
You didn't even talk about the sales. They're taking like $20 off or something.
That's true. Some games that go on sale every Mario Day are going on sale yet again on Mario Day.
That's true. They put Bowser. Bowser's going on sale or something. How come they didn't just do Captain Toad? Captain Toad's already under $60, so they like had to do like a $20 sale or something. like make a $20
I mean, or
game.
they just don't put it on sale, and they're like, "Oh, get select Mario games for $39.99," and they
It's
just put that
true,
one
but
there,
they-
and they're like, "Yeah,
Yeah, they could have just did that. Like all these games are $39.99.
And somebody was, thinks they're getting a great deal, and they're like, "Oh wait, it's always
That's just how much this game costs. But putting Bowser there was weird. Like I don't know why. I mean, I know why they did that. Design wise, they're like, this is wrong. We got to put something there.
I also, okay, after the Mario movie has happened, so, like Mario at this point has a brand Bible, looks consistently the same and all that kind of stuff. And like looking at this post of Happy Mario Day has Mario and he looks like Mario. Is there any chance that post the movie or in the next couple of years that changes to reflect more like the movie style? Or
I doubt it.
I kind of doubt it.
I don't think it's going to happen.
But I guess
especially since they didn't do the Donkey Kong thing. They weren't like Donkey. I mean, Mario has a new style. Look at him.
Right.
We like him.
Yeah.
They didn't do that.
True.
Because he only looks like that to be able to
CGI
map Chris Pratt onto him. So it's like, I don't think that's going to be a permanent change that will make it to the video games. Could be crazy though.
But a permanent change is happening to the Metroid series, which is that it is selling well. Hopefully permanent. Permanent for this game, I suppose. I don't know. Transitions, So there's a couple of things that are happening Metroid this week, which is neat. Number one, this just happened right before we started recording, but Metroid Fusion is coming to Switch Online expansion next week on March 9th.
They should have did it the same day as that should have been a launch game for the thing, because it would have been the same as when Metroid Prime came out, or is it Prime 2? It was one of the Metroid Prime games that Metroid Fusion came out.
You're so right.
The same time frame, and people are like, "That's so crazy." 2 games came out.
Apparently, I didn't know about this.
Even though Nintendo does that all the time.
That's true. There's some kind of integration with the 2 games where, like, if you have, what is it? I think it was like on the GameCube. I think it was like if you had Metroid Fusion and you did this, that, or the other and plugged in your whatever, blah, blah, something.
Cable thing.
I guess that you could play Metroid Fusion through Metroid Prime, like you could unlock it in that game and play it on your TV.
Just get a Game Boy player.
Well, yeah. So I'm curious if something, like that integration happens for literally no reason at all, but just to show like, isn't that a fun little thing that happened? But in any case, that game's coming. I haven't played that one. I also still haven't. I bought Metroid Prime Remastered, still haven't started it yet. But now, like, there's so many Metroid games. I also want to play Super Metroid, and because I keep just not getting around to it because there's other games to play. So, but I don't know, Metroid, man. It's a neat little thing. Yep. Yeah. Also PAX and E3 and so go ahead.
I was just going to say I saw more stupid internet stuff that annoyed me about this video game. About people being like Metroid's not worth X amount of dollars or whatever, or the other side of the internet also being like Metroid being not being $60 is why it's selling so well and blah blah blah. And it's like,
what's the first? Tell me more about what people are saying on the first side of that. It's not worth $40 or $60.
It's not worth $40. They're saying that the game is not worth $40 because nobody cares about Metroid. But also,
weird,
there
but
are
okay.
People that are saying that there are also people that are like like talking about the other end of that, of being like the only reason why it's doing well is because it is $40. And like,
I mean, it's a contributing factor, sure, but not. I don't know
if it is. Well,
so in that, like, it being $40 just means that it's more of an impulse buy for somebody that would otherwise be on the fence.
I entirely agree with that, but these people are specifically talking about the fact that the physical copy of the video game is out, like is sold out.
Yeah. Yeah.
It would have sold out if it was $60. I promise you.
Yeah,
that the stock that they had was selling out for $60. It's selling on eBay and stuff like that for double the price. They could have sold it for 60. But yeah, it's definitely like, it definitely does contribute to it being like an impulse buy overall. Like, I think that like
for the digital game, like especially, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I didn't want to tweet this, because I just didn't feel like feeding into that whole garbage fire. But I feel like what they should have did, if they wanted to find a happy medium, where they sell well, but also like the people that really, really care about getting the physical version get the physical version, they should have made the physical version $60 and the digital version $40. They should have did that. And they should do that more often. In the fact,
I think there might be maybe not laws against it, but at least like best practices.
It's not laws. Yeah, no.
I'm sure it's not laws.
Specifically, they go against doing that largely. It's not like a there's like
for the retailers
times
benefit,
where there's been an
probably.
exception. Yes, exactly. It's like they don't do it because there's like, it's like a Cold War. It's like, well, if you do that, then we'll stop selling your, it's like that whole situation.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think they could make an argument here. And
Yeah,
even if they
yeah,
did
for
something
sure.
where it's like, we packed in a special sticker, it has reversible box art, like people care about just having the
there's
plastic on their shelf or whatever. Like, there's pay $20 extra for it.
Yeah, there's plenty of examples of exactly that, where it's like, it's a digital only game that exists as a digital only game, and it's $15, and then they make a physical copy and they sell it for $30 because they added in a couple other things, but really it's because like it's a small publisher, like Hollow Knight or something like that. If you were maybe not that one, but there's games like
Shovel
that.
Knight did it at one point in time. Like,
yeah, sure.
There's multiple examples of that.
So like at that point, so they could totally do that as well. And then at that point, it's the people that are buying it more as collectors things or whatever. But yeah, it's definitely not the fact that it's 40. Okay, there's so many different directions to go in there, but I think it's selling well because it's selling well and people want to buy it. I'm sure there's a little bit of like, scalpers are buying because there was obviously some low stock. Scalpers saw it as a thing to scalp, like that in there, I'm sure too. Yeah. But then you're right, exactly. But then one of the articles here is that Nintendo responded to it, and it's not like an artificial shortage or anything, because they specifically were like, yeah, we know that there's stronger demand than we expected, so we're gonna make more of them, and if there's none at your local retailers, we'll get some there. Basically, here's the exact quote. We will do everything we can to meet the strong demand for the product. Please continue to check with major retailers for availability. If the Metroid Prime Remastered game sells out at various retail locations in the US, we'll work to provide more units as soon as possible.
Nice.
So like it's selling pretty well. But if people didn't want the game, they wouldn't buy the game, like that's
true.
Yeah, but it's great. I mean, good thing that it's selling. So here's the question: do you think it's liable in this quarter even to outsell Metroid Dread?
No. Nope. I don't think so. Because I think that like this selling well for them, like can mean 2 million copies. Like we don't know how many were purchased. We don't know what their expectations were. I mean, there's like a possibility that like when everything's all said and done that it outsells Dread, but I don't think it's going to like immediately outsell Dread.
Yeah, I think so. My thoughts is that Dread had really like short spike in sales, and I think historically it seems like Metroid is the kind of franchise that would also do that, where like it's got super fans and it's got people that are interested in the next game when it happens, but not a whole lot of like evergreen sales. Not in that it doesn't have the evergreen value specifically, but just like that it, in consumer mind share, it doesn't have.
I was about to say, it kind of means that it doesn't,
Yeah.
Like,
right. Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, like, in terms of the, like, lifelong quality of the game for the game's sake, that may be evergreen. But as far as its sales, yeah, not. So, yeah, I wouldn't be too surprised. I mean, it really, depends on, like, what were their sales expectations. Because if it was like, I don't know, maybe we'll sell, like, 200,000 physical units, then, like, no, obviously that, like, they just way, you know,
underestimated what they were
understocked and stuff. But yeah, if they thought it was going to be like even 500,000 physical units and it's selling mostly digitally, and also the number of people that are like double dipping and stuff like that, I wouldn't be too surprised if it did. But it's also the kind of thing where, like, probably it'll sell well now and then also in holiday season, depending on who knows what holiday season looks like.
I don't know if this game's that kind of game.
That's the thing. Yeah, I don't. And when I say well for that, I mean, like, hopefully in calendar year or in fiscal year, 2024, you know, starting April, ending the following April, that it'll sell 1 million within that year. But, like, it's possible that this could get up to 2.5 million within this quarter, and then sell not enough to actually hit their, you know, charts again. So that would be interesting. But in any case, it's selling well, so that's great. And you know, they did a good job building up hype for future games. And speaking of which, one of the guys apparently that worked on Metroid, this game, wants to work on Metroid Prime 2 and 3, which sounds like probably they haven't started working on those yet then. But not that we necessarily would know, but
yeah, I was going to say, I don't know if that means that.
I mean, then again, we even talked ourselves that, like, probably if they were to do 2 and 3, maybe they wouldn't be full remasters like this one anyway. So it might not be handled by some of the same people. So, you know.
But it could also be that, and we just don't know yet. Because, like, from ratings, if there's any indication there, like the fact that Prime 1 got rated 18 months ago, I think that could lend credence to, like, the idea that they do plan to do something like that. And like somebody saying, like, I want to work on this, isn't even confirmation that they're not working on it, you know, like, especially in this industry, like, people do that all the time where it's like, oh, it'd be really neat if this thing were to happen, and then 3 months later they announce that it's happening. So, like, I don't know if there's much to be said there, in terms of like if this means anything personally. And
it's hard to know what things mean things, because in a similar situation, not that similar, just things meaning things, I'm sure you saw this, that there's talks already of new Switch model. What that means, A, whether it's credible or true is the question. B, what that means is the other question. So here's the context behind it for anybody who doesn't know, is that there's somebody who on 4chan before this is on February 24th, so that's 3 days before the Pokemon Presents, like, basically said, here's all the things that are going to happen in the Pokemon Presents, and got them spot on, exactly right. So, like, even the names of Hidden Treasure of Area Zero and Paradox Suicune and Paradox Virizion and so on and so forth. Which is, you know, all well and good and stuff. The last thing that he said is, we are working on a graphics enhancement patch for the new Nintendo Switch models that will be released alongside DLC 2. So, option A, he made something up, and that's not true at all. Option B is true, but what new Nintendo Switch model means may not be
what people think it means.
Right. Option C, it actually does mean like new generation console kind of thing. Or D, some mix of this out of the other things. But I feel like, generally between A, B, and C, those are worth kind of digging into a little bit. So what do you think?
I don't I don't see a world where we get a new Switch model at the end of this year and we don't know anything about it right now. Like, I mean, just another thing we talk about Nintendo noise. But I think that if we were to get anything short of a new Nintendo DS sort of situation, a new Nintendo 3DS sort of situation, or you know, like some sort
Switch
of Game
Pro
Boy
at that
Color
point,
kind of Switch Pro, whatever it is. I just try to like steer away from that because like the idea of Switch Pro or Xbox or like PlayStation 4 Pro, Xbox, like people try to like specifically tie it to those console manufacturers rather than tying it to the fact that Nintendo has literally always done this with every successful platform that they have ever released. Like the Wii even had like a mid generation refresh of sorts. So like like when they do new consoles, it has always been the case. We know about them at least a year before it is released into the world. Like they don't just shadow drop console announcements. They're like, yo, the next thing's coming, whether it's like publicly at like an E3 or like a direct or like or at an earnings meeting, you know. They say something that is, we are working on the new thing. You will learn about new thing at a future date. We have heard the opposite of that for years and years, and that's still been true up until the most recent earnings report. And I think like even if it was a mid-generation refresh sort of situation, they would kind of you know, tease towards that. We plan on releasing more SKUs of, you know, like, or whatever it is, you know. I think that either this was a situation of them being abreast to a thing that they planned to do before, you know, like it was the whole thing about Digital Foundry, which I think that they're a grain of salt in terms of like them being a source and this sort of thing.
Right.
But like as far as what Digital Foundry said about the OLED and like how they initially planned to do like a Switch Pro kind of situation, but then pivoted, something that we also speculated like when the OLED initially was revealed, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know. I just feel like this is, it feels like another instance. And also he could just literally mean like for the OLED for all we know.
Yeah, right.
You know, but I think that this just feels like a case of like confirmation bias. It feels like the Nintendo Switch Online, Game Boy, Pokemon games all over again. It's like we get a little breadcrumb and we're like, oh, there's smoke here. You know, it's like it's like no, it's not smoke. I mean, it could be smoke, but I kind of doubt that it's smoke. I more doubt that it's smoke than I think that it is smoke.
So there's a couple of different thoughts that I have on this. The first one is to play devil's advocate. In the past, we have known well in advance that stuff is, you know, that new hardware is coming. Could be that in the past that didn't always work out so well, specifically with the Nintendo NX for the Wii U itself. Like it worked out well for the Switch to know it in so far advance, but like it, you know, could have hurt Wii U sales and stuff like that.
I don't buy that at all.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. I'm just, you know, just saying that like maybe it's something where they have done it a certain way, but now they have different management and stuff like that, and they're going to keep stuff close. I mean, they kept Metroid Prime close to their chest until literally when it was revealed. And I don't think they would obviously do it in that short order, but you know, once they announced the Switch, that timeline was also pretty short. Obviously, the reason they talked about it so early was just to keep investors like afloat, probably for a while. Like, no, we've got stuff coming. We're doing stuff.
I don't think that's true because they did the same thing. They literally every major console release, they talk about a year plus in advance. They talked about the Wii U before the Wii U came out. During the Wii's life cycle, they talked about the Nintendo Revolution during the GameCube's life. They talked about the GameCube. It was Dolphin. They talked about Dolphin during the N64's life. They talked about it was Project Reality or whatever before the N64 was announced. They always do this all of the time. And that's also true for like handhelds. Like there's even handhelds that they talked about way before they happened that didn't end up happening. Like it was a successor. It was supposed to be a successor to Game Boy Advance that didn't end up happening. They pivoted and they did DS instead. And then that was Nitro or whatever. Like,
so my only thought is we are famous for saying that Nintendo doesn't continue doing things just because they've done them a certain way before. Nintendo Directs as the prime example, like, we can't bank on like the blank Direct or whatever. And so I wouldn't be surprised. I just looked up for what it's worth, like when the Wii U was officially announced versus when it
was Project Cafe.
Yeah. So like that kind of thing, which like that's an era that you
Even
know way more about than I do.
That was like, it was at E3 in 2011. So
yeah.
Even that.
So
was a minute.
The one thing that I wonder really is just like, just at this point, would they maybe have incentive? They have the most like best consistent sales momentum that they've had at this point in the console's life cycle ever, obviously. Would it benefit them to hold their cards close to their chest while they can, knowing that they can just hopefully keep that up for as long as they can and, have that ace up their sleeves, basically. If that were the case. So that's me playing a little bit devil's advocate, is that I don't, or less even devil's advocate, more, I don't think we can say just because they have done something a certain way for years and years and years that thing exactly they're going to do the same.
But I'm less so saying that is the reason and more so saying like that's what they've done and it hasn't not worked, versus usually when I say things like that about like Nintendo Directs and that precedent and stuff like that, those are things that haven't specifically worked. It's just that's what they've done, and they've done that. Like they did a September Direct or whatever, or a January Direct or whatever. Did that contribute to the game selling well? No, absolutely not.
I mean, for all we know, but they probably do have metrics on that kind of thing for what it's worth. I think like they have metrics for way more things than we would necessarily, have as like direct contributions of like engagement versus sales and all that kind of stuff. So to me, like announcement versus release is a similar kind of thing in either case, that like they still, they could do whatever they want and, go from there basically. So that's that thought. So the other thought is that the one thing that, because I was at first thinking, okay, it says new Nintendo Switch models, could obviously just be a branded model, like, like a new OLED or whatever. And that they just have, even if they're telling the truth about this, we're working on this for a new Nintendo Switch model and it just looks different or whatever. The only thing that it feels a bit off about that is that then it says we're working on a graphics enhancement patch for the new Nintendo Switch models. And like, I don't know that those things to me together coincide, where like doing a specific graphics patch for just like, a Pokemon branded Switch kind of a thing. That's exactly the same power level and stuff like that. So that's
also
that's
new
the thing.
Nintendo
Again, this
Switch model doesn't sound like Successor.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the other thing too, is like, that's also a bit funky, but it's, again, I mean, it would be surprising to me, obviously could very well happen, that they would do a mid-console refresh kind of thing at this point. But again, it just depends what I think it's still going to be called Switch. And like, that's what we've talked about for years.
That's the part, like, that's another thing, like even removed from all of that stuff in terms of even their specific precedent, but just what makes sense business-wise. Even to this day, with the Mario Switch, the Mario Day stuff that we talked about in this podcast, it's a $300 bundle.
Yeah.
For not even the OLED. We have not gotten one price drop.
Yep.
As far as sales trajectory, no price drops. We're kind of midlife. We're mid-cycle. I would not be surprised to see them do something like that because of where they're at in terms of like sales trajectory. Like the only incentive that they actually have to release another console is the fact that people that are like super in and like online TM want it.
Yeah.
But like people are still buying Switches. People are still buying Mario Kart for their Nintendo Switch. So it's like,
yep.
I don't know.
I think it's really the big question for me is do they want sales to, I mean, do they feel like they've reached market saturation for one thing, you know?
Right.
And I don't know the answer to that.
I don't think they do. It doesn't sound like they do.
And yeah. I mean, but obviously anything that we hear them say is going to sound like that too. Cause it's like, I mean, they're going to be honest to investors, but they're also going to be optimistic to investors. So that is something that I want to, because I feel like they've gotten at least closer to market saturation than, you know, most other consoles that we've seen. Again, like the examples that we have of the consoles that have sold more than the Switch are ones that have like outlier reasons. Like the PS2 is also a DVD player. So like the number of people that just use it for a DVD player, or like the DS is like people bought multiple DSs because they then bought a DI and this, that, and the other, you know. And it was before smartphones.
Is that even an outlier? I don't know if buying multiple DSs is an outlier. That feels pretty Nintendo Switch-like to me.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, maybe. So it's interesting. So the last thought that I have with this specific sentence is that with it being released alongside DLC 2, I think to me, if winter 2023 means winter 2024, really, and they're calling it like fiscal year 2023, and it means like, you know, March of next year or whatever, then I would give this some credence. And if it doesn't mean that, then I wouldn't, is kind of where my personal opinion, because that is honestly, that's the earliest I can see.
I can't see any world where release is in 2023. I could see them starting to reveal, tease towards, but I don't see a world where release.
Yeah,
is
I think that's
unless it is a refresh. Yeah. And another thing that I want to point out is that I think that kind of alluded to it a little bit, but I think that that's an inconsistency there, because everything else down to the name of the DLC they were very specific about, but the new Nintendo Switch model is not very specific. And
I mean, unless they like aren't, maybe that's something that they're not even aware of, and it's just like, hey, make games stronger for reasons, you know, or something like that. They could even be guessing at that. Yeah, exactly. Which at that point, that's not consistent either.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah,
it just all feels like grasping at straws to me personally. It's like, please, I want this to be true. Please, I want Switch Pro. Please, I want Switch 2.
But you know, I think it's one of those things. To me, for myself, it feels less like that, because I don't care. To be honest, I think it's fun to talk about. I think it's interesting to talk about, and just like, you know, predict the future, see what happens, see what doesn't happen. Like with the Pokemon Day, where it's like, here's some things that would be fun to see at Pokemon Day. Right. Didn't happen, and I feel
got angry about it. That's another thing that is important to state here.
Yes,
like, being too sure just makes people angry.
Yeah, exactly. So that is the things. The difference between me talking about it as a fan and having fun versus me talking about it as, like, you know, bolstering the conversation and riling people up in theory is different. And so there's something to be said for that. But I think it's interesting regardless, and I'll be curious to find out what happens.
We shall.
I mean, we'll know before the end of the year for sure if there's anything that means anything.
Yeah, right. Because if nothing happens, we know it's not true, and if something happens, we know it's true on some level, at least.
Yeah, exactly. So and there was apparently, I don't feel like talking about this specifically, but Jeff Grubb is hearing things about a reveal in late 2023, which would potentially line up with something like that. But even that, he's heard some things that have been right, and he's heard some things that have been wrong, and that's why we had Mark on the other week. So, you know, even if he's one of the more reliable ones,
that I wouldn't be surprised by. Like if we get some sort of
True.
reveal at the end of the year, that's more consistent. That makes more sense to me.
Yep.
That aligns more with the trajectory of this console. But
and then at that point, I mean, do a reveal and also do like price drops and stuff like that.
Right.
And it's, like going out of, not literally going out of business sale, but just like a, flash sale of all this stuff. Like, oh, you're excited about the new thing? Here's all this stuff that's already out that you can get for even cheaper now, or, whatever. Yep. I feel like that's a nice little 1-2 punch, and that they've been in theory saving the sales and stuff for exactly this purpose is
kind of what PS2 did. I mean, PS2 had sales sooner. But they didn't get into their deep sales until PS3 was already out. And that's when PlayStation 2 sales like took off. Is once it was at the $99.99 mark, it was out of here.
Yeah. And you know what else is out of here? When you use the little bat in the home run thingy and Smash that, but Smash more specific. Oh, Steve's out of here.
Some other stuff is about to be out of here. Potentially the entire scene. I think that this is all fallout from the Nintendo Panda stuff. Smash Brothers community shot themselves in the foot. If they were,
Steve is the only thing that I know about, by the way. So
there's a lot of
stuff. Me
in
on any of the rest.
All right, so Steve, there's a new tech that Steve Labbers have discovered that basically lets Steve get out of hit stun. You know what that means? He cannot be comboed.
I do, yes.
he gets hit. He does not flinch. He can just jump out of it because he can place a block to cancel his hit stun. Basically, that's a super.
And they're not gonna patch things at this point.
We don't know.
They're done.
We don't know. They said when they announced that the final balance patch that they were open to emergency patches for glitches and bugs and stuff like that, and this falls under that. So I don't know. There is like a campaign from by Steve Maines right now. They're organizing to get him nerfed and get the bug fixed because they want to still be able to play their character in tournaments. But yeah, they're like calling and sending messages to like Nintendo support en masse to try to get the issue patched. But I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, a lot of
that's a risky line though too, because like if they're not doing that respectfully or whatever too.
From what I see, they are.
Okay, cool.
From what I've seen, they're not being cursed, but that's just the ones I've seen. You know, like I'm sure that there's outliers, but from what I've seen, they're like basically like laying it out. Yeah, like they're like giving them all their research, being like, here's how this works, here's why it's a problem, here's how you may be able to fix it. You know, that sort of stuff. So we'll see what happens with that. I have my doubts. But apart from that, a big org that was a part of all this Panda drama in a way, less directly, BTS Beyond the Summit, they are shutting down because they are not profitable enough. So they're sunsetting their employees. They're giving them like severances packages, and they're doing like Ultimate Summit 6s. They're like send off tournament. That's like I think towards the end of this month. Which is a rip. It's pretty sad because VG Bootcamp is the one really big like broadcaster of Smash events and stuff like that. They got hit pretty hard last year, and now it's BTS's turn. And it's just like, I think all of this was avoidable. I think that if the Smash scene cooperated more. Even like, okay, so there's another aspect of this. Tweak and MKLeo both got dropped from their sponsors. Both of their sponsors are tier 1 sponsors. They're like huge sponsors in esports in general, like T1 and TSM. Tweak is their only Smash Ultimate. Well, was their only Smash Ultimate player. They still have Leffen, so they're not completely. Who is a Smash Bros. Melee player. And I think he's like one of their oldest tenured players, like, and as far as like social capital, he's like way bigger than Tweak. Like Tweak has like 100,000, like 150,000 followers on Twitter, and like he has a podcast, so it's like a little different too. But Leffen has like 300,000 something. Like he's like the first or second most followed Smash player, and like one of the top esports players in terms of like clout. So like them keeping Left in makes sense. But T1 doesn't have any Smash players now after dropping Leo. So they're exiting the space, at least for now.
Wow.
And Leo and Tweacore, two of the best players in the world, are without a sponsor, which does not say a lot about like the health of the Smash scene. It's not looking great. And yeah, like I just think that like Smash, like last year, was headed in a whole different direction, and that one like Nexus event of them doing what they did in terms of like all that stuff, and them like bucking back in Nintendo for the Panda Cup stuff. I think they shot themselves in the foot, because the Smash was trending to being like a huge thing, you know, like it was already pretty big. It was already one of the most viewed esports without any of that. But now it's trending in the opposite direction, you know, like before there was like minimum 2 big events a month. Now we don't even know, like there's like a big event that's happening this month, which is Collision in New Jersey. And then there's Summit, which that's the last Summit. And then they confirmed SmashCon is happening and Riptide. So that's pretty much the big like Smash events that we know are happening. There's some like convention stuff that's probably going to happen, but like in terms of like Smash specific stuff, it's not looking great. Smashing on the way out in terms of like, as far as like it being as big as it was. Like there'll always be like grassroots. It'll be like what Melee was when Evo got canceled, or when they were trying to cancel Evo. People will always be playing Smash. People play this game in large quantities, but like it went from being like something that was a feasible career for not only players but commentators and coaches and you know, and all this stuff, to that being a lot more risky unless you're like the best of the best, you know.
Right.
And also,
and even for just people like giving lessons and stuff, like you know, Tweak and that kind of stuff, where like I'd imagine that somebody would, you know, someone in your situation that would put money into it to get better at the game, partly with the intention that like, and eventually I could be also making money by doing this. And if there's less incentive from the like return on investment side of that, then like people are probably less likely to you know, invest in the first place. For sure. I would imagine.
I think it depends on where they're at. Like for me specifically, that's less true, because like the most like ironclad thing about the Smash community is that there will always be local events. Like that's going to happen. Yeah, totally. And that's why I even care even a little bit, because like I mean first and foremost for me it's a content thing. Like being good at the video game is good for me, because I can post tweets and be like, look at this cool thing I did, or stream it on Twitch or whatever, right? Even make videos if I want to do that. And like secondarily to that, for me personally, I don't really care about like traveling to play Smash Brothers, because that puts like, that makes this more complicated. Then I gotta be like, oh, I don't think we can do it directly this weekend because I got a major. I don't really care that much about playing Smash Brothers to like put this on the back burner for that. So like that's less of a thing for me. For people that don't have that consideration, but like have some sort of aspiration to get really good at the game, that really just depends on where they live. If they're not like in a good scene, like I have options, you know, like I have proximity to Philly, I have proximity to New York, I have proximity to New Jersey. Those are 3 of the like most prominent scenes in Smash Brothers, period. So like I have no shortage of places to play Smash Brothers competitively, but people in freaking Nebraska or whatever, right, like they have less incentive now to grind, because they have no real reason to travel to the big tournaments and stuff like that. So it's like,
man, like, that's rough,
man.
Well, hopefully in some way that turns around, but it doesn't feel likely. I
think the only way that this turns around for the better is if Nintendo does what they kind of, I mean, Kit and Krista have alluded to this a few times, where they're like, their thought process is like, whether you like it or not, we're strong arming ourselves into this eventually.
Okay, yeah.
I think a lot of the Smash scene, like the BTSs, like those people, the grassroots people that tried to do this on their own, that's something that they didn't want. But I think that it's what the Smash scene ultimately needs. Like, it's what every other successful esport has, is developer support. And like Smash players love to see stuff like the Capcom Cup get announced, and it has $2 million prize pools and stuff like that. Happened because Capcom got involved. It didn't happen because they had a grassroots scene. You know, you don't have a scene that big without the developer support and blessing. And the only way that you're going to get that is for them to make it happen, you know?
Yeah. And I saw this week or last week or something, like Nintendo is joining like the school esports thing,
collegiate esports. Yeah, they've been toying around with that for a while. M. Skelton said, could the Steve Tech force an emergency patch? Stolen from Tweet Talks. I talked about that a little bit, but I think I don't think it's impossible, but I do think that it's like not super likely. Unless this like gets super, and like I think that that's contingent on if Nintendo does care to strong arm themselves back into the scene, you know, because if the scene becomes a thing and there's like financial incentive for them to like have these tournaments, and they want people to watch the tournaments, but they also want people to like see their game for what their game is, meaning like all of it. They want people to buy Steve. Obviously, they're not going to want Steve to be banned. So they're going to have to fix him, you know, because like whether they ban him or not, like less people enter if they're like, OK, well, we're not going to ban Steve. We don't want to patch Steve. So less people are going to enter, less people are going to watch, so on and so forth. If they ban Steve, less people are going to play. Granted, I think that's the smaller issue because, again, Steve is 1 out of 80 something characters. So like less Steve players doesn't mean less people playing the game, because there's 80 other characters to play that other people will play. And I think there's more people that don't play because of Steve than people that won't because Steve isn't there, if that makes sense. So I think that if Nintendo does get involved, I think that like that becomes like the opposite end. Like right now where I'm leaning towards no, but it's possible. If Nintendo does like re-enter the Smash scene in a real way, I think that it's very likely that we get a patch, way less likely that we don't, personally. But we'll see. TBD.
It's true. And speaking of Smash, you playing any games?
I mean, I'm playing games, man. I'm playing less games than I was last week, because like I've been mostly playing Pokemon. We got some stuff that we're planning. One of the things I don't want to talk about, but it's happening. Another thing we talked about a little bit. I talked about it on the stream. We're going to do like a Pokemon Scarlet and Violet draft league. If you know what a draft league is, or if you don't know what a draft league is, we're going to allot points to every Pokemon in the video game. Every participant has a certain amount of points, and they got to build a team of 9 to 12 Pokemon to use in a season of games to see who is the best one. But like non-meta teams, because point system. Right.
This season of game, what is that to play competitively, like with other people, or against each other primarily, or what's
against the people within the league?
Okay, that's what I was asking. Yes, as opposed to for some reason using those
Pokemon to like ladder or whatever.
People.
Yeah, no.
Right. Yeah. Okay, that sounds fun. How many people are going to be involved in the whole draft league thing?
I think that we're trying to iron that out. I think that the minimum is 8. But we might be able to get more, because it all breaks down to like how many Pokemon there are that are viable, or viable enough. Because there's obviously like certain Pokemon, I would say a few Pokemon, not enough Pokemon, that invalidate every other Pokemon. So like if everybody that participates doesn't have a chance at least to get their hands on one of those Pokemon, I don't think it's worth doing, or worth having that many people or whatever, right?
Or can those ones be banned or something? Like just not allowed to use
they
those
could
ones?
be banned, but I think that kind of goes against the
If it
spirit
makes
of
the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess it's
the
just like
idea
if,
is more.
if it wouldn't be possible otherwise, then,
Yeah, I think what's probably going to happen is we'll just have a smaller league of participants, but just like stream.
Gotcha.
And then either it be a
rules
thing.
wise,
I was just going to say either it would be a thing that like we prioritize like people that are already super active in the community or like streamer, like people that stream, and just do it like that, and then everybody else just watch because I think it'd be fun to watch.
Yeah, for sure. Out of curiosity, so is it? Could people get draft Pokemon in the same family of Pokemon? Because I assume it's like if you draft Quackable, I can't have Quackable. But so theoretically, like I could have Quaxley and you could have Quackable, and then I will just have a worse Pokemon. But like whatever.
Yep.
Okay. Just curious.
Yeah, all the Pokemon are on the board. So there's like pre-evolutions and stuff like that, and they're way less points. Like the pre-evolutions are like 1 point, and then depending on how meta I think Sprigatito is probably like 1 to 3 points, and then Meowscarada is like 15 points, like 15 or 16 points. And then everybody has like a total. Well, we're probably going to lower this, but I think right now it's like 120 or 130 points or something like that. But we're trying to trying to iron out how many points to allot to everybody, because that like the amount of participants is contingent on how many points are available and how many Pokemon there are.
Right. Yeah.
So
well, that'd be fun. Yeah,
that's one of the things
that's
that
neat.
we're working on. But yeah, that I'm battling. I've been doing the ladder stuff. I got back in Masters. I think I already talked about that. Well, there's a new season, so I got to get back in Masters again. But,
how often is that? Every quarter?
I think it's like every month, every 2 months or something like that.
Every month. Okay, wow.
Yeah,
pretty often.
Yep.
Nice.
So they put me back in Great Ball at the precipice of Ultra. So like I'm not that far. But. I gotta
do some people just stay, like people at the top of Masters, do they just stay in Masters, or do they also get set back?
You all drop at least a little bit.
Gotcha.
So just gotta grind, get back, which it doesn't take that long. I think it would, like if I like started from where I started and I didn't lose at all for like 5 battles, I would be back in Masters.
Nice.
But it's a dice roll. This game's RNG, the video game, so.
I mean, and also, at that point, even though you're in Great Ball, the other people that you're fighting in Great Ball, especially right at the beginning of the season,
also
are probably
starting in
master rank people.
Exactly.
So it's not like, and being at the lower rank isn't changing, anything other than anything at that point. Nice. I'm also playing that game. Just having a good old time doing it. I finally evolved my Charcadet. I hadn't for a while because I was trying to. I for some reason just had the impression that I was going to like stumble upon whatever like the way to evolve it organically through story means or something like that. So I like didn't look up how to do it, but I hated using Charcadet because he's very, very weak as Charcadet. And then you evolve it, and it's a lot better. Although I have Mega Man instead of Mega Man X, so rip that.
Mega Man instead of Proto Man?
Proto Man, that's the one. Yeah, what's Mega Man X?
Mega Man X is just
long hair.
He's just Mega Man, but like futuristic and like taller.
Oh yeah. Oh, interesting. Yeah. What's Mega Man Z look like? Is that who I was thinking of too?
Maybe I was thinking
Mega Man Zero.
Yeah, you might be thinking
that's what I was thinking of. But yes, or Proto Man or whatever. So, but in any case, I evolved him, and like, man, he's a good guy now. At this point, I do finally have a team that I'm just like sticking with these guys, riding it out with this team, and pretty close to done with all the. I think I've got a gym and a Starfall Street left, and then move on to the Elite Four. But team right now is Meowscarada, Annihilate, Armarouge, and 3 other Palmot that I think is real cute and fun, and 2 other ones.
So far,
I don't remember
your
off the
team
top of my
sound
head,
pretty meta so far. You just gotta give
It's
Palmot,
really- okay.
revival blessing, and you're good.
It has it.
Oh, well, there you go. You got
Yeah.
a meta team.
What's my other two? I've got my Switch right here, but I don't think it's loaded up. So I'm gonna find out because I want to know. I want to know. Oh, it is opened. We're gonna find out right here. Oh, Tinkaton.
Okay, you
Still
took it
pretty
out.
meta,
You took it out of
maybe?
meta. You took it out.
Oh, really? Okay.
Tinkaton is
I thought Tinkaton
like,
was for some
Tinkaton's fine. Like Tinkaton's more like support mon, like can be glue,
Gotcha.
but like it's not like meta defining by any means.
Yeah. And the last one, definitely not meta, but Garchomp, because I just like Garchomp.
Garchomp's more meta than Tinkaton.
Okay, interesting.
But not
I just figured because he's
super
not a newer
meta.
Pokemon.
Yeah.
That's honestly
There's just certain
I
Pokemon
kind
that
of-
never leave the meta. Garchomp is kind of that. Amogus is definitely that.
Right. Yeah. There's a part of me that I like Garchomp a lot. I almost want to switch him out just to have
new Pokemon.
all the others are Gen 9 Pokemon, and that's the only one that's not. But it's such a cool Pokemon, you know?
Sure.
What are you going to do?
It is a cool Pokemon.
So yeah, that's my team. We're having a good time. Yeah, I've just got Ghost Gym and Fighting Starfall Street left, and I haven't finished it. Like I did the last Titan just
But
a couple
you didn't
hours
do,
ago,
like, the final
but I didn't do
thing.
meeting somebody at a lighthouse and something.
Yep.
So I don't know what comes of that, but I'm curious. And I think one of the things is like I'm curious at this point just to see. I've heard people talk about like the post game doesn't disappoint or whatever, and I'm like I wanted to find out what that is.
Pretty cool.
I don't know how. I know Paradox Pokemon are a thing. I have just guesses vaguely at the concept, but I'm curious just to see, like, there's no indication of any of that yet. Like right now, people talk about the story of this game. None of this so far feels like story specifically, other than Arvin and his tail, and you know, what a sweet little guy.
I hate him. He's terrible.
And Starfall Street, like I kind of, you know, I get essentially what's going on there. And then, you know, gyms are gyms. So that kind of thing. But I am curious, like, what's the you know, story behind all this stuff that we'll find out later, I guess. But, but yeah, that's basically all I'm playing. I think at this point, I'm enjoying it, but I also am ready to have it finished up so that I can play other things, because I just, despite people being like, you don't have to, you can just stop playing anything whenever you want, and play other games and stuff like that. I'm just not good at that. So I'm good at having like a single player game and then like a light game that I play as well. But I'm just not good at having multiple like single player RPG-ish kinds of things going at the same time. And I'm just not going to force it at this point. So that's where we're at, but there's a whole bunch of games that I'd like to play. I'm hearing good things about Octopath Traveler 2, so that's going on the list of, for like at the end of the year, maybe I'll pick it up when it's on sale and my birthday and stuff, but definitely not going to get it for a long time because backlog. So yeah, that's about it for me and games. You say you've been playing Pokemon? Anything else? Did you? I didn't put Inkopolis in that whole update in the things.
I did not.
You play
no,
any of that? Okay.
Didn't play that. I didn't even buy that DLC yet. I bought the Pokemon DLC.
Yeah.
But I didn't buy that DLC yet. I mean, I'm going to buy it when I'll probably get it before then, like before the second wave comes out. But like, I'm not in a rush to buy it because I only care about the second wave. I don't really care about the Inkopolis stuff because that's just set dressing, and I don't really care about that.
Yeah, it's surprisingly shallow, I feel like, for it to just be that. So, weird, you know? But is what it is. But yeah, anything else that you are playing?
Smash. Still doing the weekly sessions with Quid. They're going pretty good. Again, just a lot of like small, like, you should do this more. And I'm being like, oh my God, I should do that more. And then I do that more, and then that makes me realize more things that I should do. It's like just the like, and also a lot of stuff that like I already knew. It's like, oh, okay, well this I need to think of this differently, and then knowing that I got to use that move more and wondering why it wasn't working before, because it would be a move that I would use, and it's like, well, it doesn't work the way that it's like when he uses it works. And it's like, it's because of stuff like I talked about this a little bit before, but rising and falling aerials. And it's like, I realized that when I'm doing like Ivysaur down air, I usually do rising Ivysaur down air, and that's dumb. Like so like doing falling Ivysaur down air makes the sweet spot easier to hit if you're like aiming towards the ground. So just like,
that was dumb of you to do that. I can't believe I would have realized that day one, frame
that's a
3,
fact.
honestly.
That's true. That's a fact. Yeah, I'm stupid. But yeah, like just stuff like that.
No, for sure.
Also, like just small stuff, because it's like I just have like a lot of, and I think that this is also like something that like I notice about other people that are not me. Like even like Tweak, I've seen like he'll lose certain games that he could have won if he wasn't as defensive as he was in that situation. I'm sure that he's defensive for an entirely different reason than I'm defensive usually. But like there's just certain stuff that I won't do because I'll think like, but what if they hit me and I die? But it's like, that's not a smart thing to think, especially when they're in the situation that they're in, because they're actively worried about dying. Like they are currently on their deathbed, and I'm still like, but what if they hit me back and I die for that? So like there was just a lot of stuff like that too, where Quid's like, I noticed you don't like go for it. It's like you just like kill people when like it's a guaranteed like, oh, you're dead, but like don't really risk things that he feels like I could risk more. So I'm like trying to work on that too, is doing more risky things that I don't usually do. So that's also part of it.
Yep, that's tough. Anytime you learn like a small thing that unlocks a big thing, that's always fun. But I mean, sometimes tricky. But epiphanies, those are nice. Yeah,
it's really, for me right now, the biggest thing is just muscle memory, because like once that was like said, it just all clicked for me. It wasn't even like, it didn't, none of that was like a question mark. Now it's just like, okay, well, I need to work on my muscle memory, because my muscle memory is for rising down there. It's not for falling down there. So it's like just not actively thinking about it and just doing it is the thing that I need to work on. But I think it's going fine. And like already, like I'm playing like just this week I was playing against Mars, and he was like, yo, like not that your Squirtle was ever bad, but now your Squirtle is like what? I'm like, where did this come from? I'm like, yo, quit.
There it is. And we are also always like what about these crazy old questions you guys ask. Like, so here they are. All right, for what it's worth, the last couple of weeks I've just asked questions on Discord. So that's what it is, because that's typically where we get the questions anyway. So if you're listening to this and you want to ask us questions, go join our Discord, and then you can ask them on Twitter as well. But Discord's the place to be. Let asked, how do you like your pizza? Hot, cold, on a bagel?
Yes.
If those are our options, in that order, descending for sure. But so like hot pizza.
I can't even think of the last time I had a pizza bagel. Probably when I was 4.
Low tier. I remember the first time I found out about pizza bagels, and I was like, nice, this is cool. And then I had like 4 of them over a period of time, and it got less and less fun, and therefore less and less good every single time. So by the end I was like, if you need something to put pizza on, a bagel will do, but definitely regular pizza for sure.
This man don't like bagels. I'm indifferent.
I mean, no, bagels are fine. I mean, but like, if I want pizza, I don't like, bagels are just really thick for pizza things. So you need to like somehow make up for it. And it's like very bagel forward, which is great for like, cream cheese and lox or that kind of thing. But not for pizza though. Also like a fired or like, wood grilled fired pizza, whatever, that kind of thing. That's obviously the best way to do it. but that's not always an option. So most pizza, I like most pizza, and choose a high temperature instead of a low one.
Yeah, hot pizza. I mean, hot pizza. Sure. I don't like. I never like. So there's people that go not out of their way, but prefer to have pizza cold when they're like eating. Like I'm never going to like specifically opt for that because I prefer it. Only time I eat cold, exactly. Well, that's exactly what I was gonna say.
I'll accept it.
Yeah, the only time I ever eat cold pizza is like I don't feel like doing this. I don't feel like doing this whole thing.
And it's got to be pretty recently, like.
I had the pizza I feel like yesterday, like that kind of thing. Yes,
exactly.
Like,
that'll still be, but like pretty quick, it dries out in the fridge. Like if it's 3-day-old pizza in the fridge, you can. Pro tip. A toaster oven, but first run a tiny, like a trickle of water and get it a little bit wet, and then shake it off just so like the outside of it's a little bit wet, and then put it in there, and it like it doesn't make it all like weird and stuff. So do that, but otherwise it's like
people put it in people put like a glass of water and they put it in a microwave. I know people do that.
Yeah, I've tried. It feels less effective, but it's worked a little bit before.
I've never tried it. I just know people do it.
Yeah. Yep. So there you go. There's pizza. Mike asked, it's clear Game Freak needs to take more time to develop their new Pokemon games, but how long do you think Pokemon can realistically go without releasing a new mainline Pokemon game?
Depends on outside factors. Depends on like what else they're doing. I think they could go freaking 15 years if they wanted to. But like with their current formula, I think like 2 years max. In terms of like,
wasn't it 3 years is kind of the cycle?
Well, I mean, like 2 years if like they're just doing like what they did was like X and Y, like that sort of situation. Like they put out X and Y and then there's nothing new in between that, and then they put out another game. But if it is like they do new games or DLC or something like that, then it's like 3 or 4. But like at that point, they're not going a long time without a game, you know? Like the game is still coming out. So like in my head, Sword and Shield didn't come out in 2019. It stopped coming out in 2020. You know,
right? Yeah.
So that's more so what I mean.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like so far their trajectory has been like 3 years between mainline games, but I think, I mean, I feel like we could make a case for. 3, I mean, just like at least as long as there's a release of, I feel like 4 could work fine if they just have something else to release. Like honestly,
I think they could do 5 to 6 if they just pace themselves better.
But it does depend on what their outside things are. If they have other ways to like inject new material into their merchandising and stuff like that, or like have a new game that's not a mainline game, but it's like a spin-off that does enough things to give them new merchandising opportunities or something like that, then honestly, I think Legends Arceus could have been.
I think the play is probably just to make the mainline games more robust, because like while Legends Arceus had like merchandising opportunities, it's not nearly as big. Like we got the friggin' like dehumidifier. We got the like I think it was Wine Company, but it might have been somebody else that did like a Wine Company-esque Pokeball in that style, but even that wasn't priced the same as the other Pokeballs. I think that if their worry is that they won't be able to like facilitate their like merch and apparel and all that stuff, then they need to like do that through a game that can be supported more long term, but also stands on its own for longer. And GTA. I think that's the play, is like they need to make the games like significantly bigger and like modular in a sense. so that they can like spend a long time on every game and it'd be like more fun. And also they can like support the games with like something closer to like skeleton like teams rather than like it being like all hands on deck for the game, or relatively like, you know, like they have their A and their B team or whatever, and they have the A team working on like one main game, and then like part of the A team goes away and starts thinking about the next thing that is after the B team, while part of the A team is still working on post-release, like, you know, like DLC and support for the game, and, you know, that sort of stuff. They just have an A team that is, we work on mainline giant video game, and that's all we do. And then they have B team that is like smaller, where it's like we support big mainline game while big A team works on next big mainline game. I think is like the utopian version of what Pokemon could be. If quality is the only factor here.
Yeah, right. Speaking of which, Fish the Collector asks, what is the best Pokemon game that's not a mainline game? Also counting Let's Go and Pokemon Legends. I'm guessing that means that those are counting as mainline games, which, yeah.
I'd say New Pokemon Snap.
Yeah. No arguments. I'm trying to think if I'd have any arguments. No. New Pokemon Snap, 100%. Well, that was easy. Pokemon trading card game on Game Boy.
That is not true.
It's one that I have nostalgia
Fair
for.
enough.
But no, yeah, New Pokemon Snap.
I mean, if it's just nostalgia, I'd say like Pokemon Stadium 2. But
yeah.
But New Pokemon Snap.
Yeah. So there you go. Mega Man asked, based on the limited amount you've seen so far, what's your expectations for the DLCs for Pokemon?
I think it'll be bigger than Sword and Shield's DLC. I like, as far as like things that I want out of it, I guess I need something. I mean, I don't need it because I'm still playing this game, and I'm not there's nothing in me that wants to stop playing this game. But I would like to have some sort of like equivalent to Dynamax Adventures, like not necessarily like a feature that is the same, but something that like
that gets you engaged in a new way as much as that did.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like Sword and Shield was a little different in the sense that like I wasn't playing Sword and Shield as much when that DLC even got announced. Like I was still playing it every once in a while, doing multi battles and stuff with like the community. But that was like a once in a while sort of thing. Like I wouldn't play. There would be weeks where I wouldn't play Pokemon Sword and Shield. There hasn't been like a full week where I haven't played Pokemon Scarlet since it came out, and that is not something that happened with the last game. But then once the DLC came out, I started playing it like that, where there wasn't really a week since the DLC came out. Great. I mean, there's been weeks now because Scarlet and Violet largely that I haven't played at least a few raids with somebody, you know, to like get shinies or whatever. So like having some sort of thing that can like give me more stuff to do with my friends would be cool. I mean, like battling's fun and shiny hunting and all that stuff. That's interesting. But like sometimes people want to do stuff together and it'd be like PvE. Or like even a co-op that like I think that like every Pokemon game ever like drops the ball on multi-battle stuff. Like they do like battle towers, and you could do like multi-battles within the game with an AI, but the fact that you can't do battle towers and have that same multi-battle like the multi-battle like gauntlet of AI versus like with a friend, I think is crazy. Like that should be like a gimme. Like let me do a Champions League or whatever, and it be a multi-battle challenge thing. Also, they could introduce some sort of I don't think that this is a DLC thing. I doubt that they would do this with DLC, but I would like to be able to like ladder with friends too, like getting a master rank with a partner. That would be sick. But yeah, and like content, like story wise, I'm down for whatever they're going to do. Although like the older I get and the more I play Pokemon, the less like the less they're able to trick me. I know that that like the DLC was and will probably continue to be a Trojan horse for some sort of new like mechanic or feature. So like I couldn't really answer what I want out of that without being able to guess what that new mechanic or feature will be. I hope that.
Have you watched any content or anything on people like breaking down? I mean,
No.
I haven't, but breaking down this trailer and like trying to figure that.
Nope.
Because I'm watching it a little bit in the background as we're talking to try to see if anything stands out as like an obvious feature.
I did notice
like
that there was the whole thing about like Paldea looking like being shaped like the turtle. That whole situation. That turtle obviously has something to do with terrestrialization. Maybe there's like an easier way to get Terra shards or something. That would be neat.
Yeah,
I would be down for that. Another thing that I said, this is like something that's like tinfoil hat. I wouldn't be surprised if this thing was like dual Terra type. That would be pretty neat. Because right now we can only have one Terra type.
Here's a thought real quick as I'm watching this. So all that, yes, would make sense. Also, I had a thought on like, we talked last week about new Pokemon type or something like that. I had a thought earlier today as I was playing, what if at some point they had moves that were dual type moves? And that would be
they like flirted
so
with that a
broken.
little bit. They flirted with it. Yeah, Flying Press is kind of like that.
How interesting.
If you could vamp for a little bit, I can tell you exactly what it is.
Sure. Yeah. Well, so here's the thought that I had in any case with this is that they've talked about the fact that the DLC Wave 1 is going to be a field trip and Wave 2 is going to be like exchange trip kind of a thing, exchange program or whatever. So it's like a further trip. I wonder, well, again, I don't know what the post game is for what it's worth. So I wonder, based on some of the things that I'm seeing in here, if in the DLC 2, what's it called? Because maybe the name would, the Indigo Disc, maybe not, is going to the future and the past of, because I don't know. I just would be interested to see if that was a thing. Probably not.
Okay.
I don't know.
So the description...
That's just a thought.
The description for Flying Press is... Well, the like description from Bulbapedia specifically, because like the move just says deals damage, something about 80 power or something like that. Despite being a flying type move, the damage dealt is equally a combination of fighting and flying type, and thus its effectiveness against a given Pokemon differs from other fighting types. Fighting type moves. However, all other purposes, it is a fighting type move. Only fighting type Pokemon can receive the same type attack bonus on Flying Press. It is unaffected by items like Sky Plate and Flying Gem, so on and so forth.
Yeah. So it gets complicated for sure, but yeah. I guess Tri-Attack is 3 different types all at once, right? Technically, isn't that ice, electric, and fire?
I think that,
but it's categorized under normal.
I think that move just has a chance to do status relative to those types. Like it paralyze you, burn your something like that. But hold on.
I'm looking it up too because I'm.
Tri-Attack inflicts damage and has no secondary effect. Tri-Attack does damage, has 20. Okay, so Gen 1, it's a normal type attack. And Gen 2 does damage, has a 20% chance of either paralyzing, freezing, or burning. The target, each ailment has an equal chance of being inflicted. Tri-Attack can, this is just freaking specific to them, not changing anything, or changing who can get paralyzed and stuff like that.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess it.
Yeah, and then they've nerfed that sense where like fire types can't be burnt, like that sort of stuff. But yeah, it doesn't have like those properties in terms of like type effectiveness. It just has those properties because it can give you a status affliction.
Gotcha. Yep. Interesting. So yeah, I mean, but still, that would be, I guess, an interesting thing at some point to maybe mess around with. But I don't feel like that would be a thing now. So it was just a thought that I had. But yeah, I like your ideas. That's fun. And I'm sure there's some sort of breakdown of this. But even the footage we've seen so far for it isn't like obviously gameplay. It's like things that could mean any number of other things.
Yeah, there's no real game.
Right.
I don't think that I wouldn't even say no real. There's like no gameplay details. It's all lore related in terms of like what they announced and stuff. Like they announced the Pokemon, they announced certain things like vague things about like go into this place, but they didn't say what we would be doing there, like in terms of like the minute to minute, like we know like it's field trips and a festival or whatever, but we don't know what is the gameplay behind all of that.
There you go.
Yeah.
Interesting stuff. All right, next up, M. Skelton asked, how much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could Chuck Norris? 400,000. 400,000. Also, it's not throwing Chuck Norris, it's chucking Norris. I don't know who Norris is, but he could be very light for all I know.
Norris
could be very heavy. Yeah. What if it were a Pokemon? What if it was a Smash character? Where would it be in the official tier list? AJ asked for off-the-wall questions, so I just had a brain fart this time. You're welcome.
I think a woodchuck would be cracked. It would be the answer to defeating Steve.
100%.
Right after Ivysaur. Yeah. He'd be right the second best answer for beating Steve.
There it is. Good stuff. And last but not least, RP asked, will Miyamoto end up changing Mario Day to CP Day? Chris Pratt Day.
God, bro.
Yep.
Did you see that? I mean, I didn't. Them trying to be like,
what are we talking about?
This is why Chris Pratt is the perfect choice for Mario.
Oh, no, I didn't see that. When was that?
He's perfect because he's great at playing blue collar workers, man. He's just the everyday hero. He's just the everyman. He makes everybody feel like they can do it too.
That's very silly. Oh, man, what a time.
Which, like, wouldn't surprise me, because, like, people, despite the fact, I mean, never mind. Yeah. Sure.
Yep. Sure, indeed. And with that, podcast is over. Get out of here, everybody. Go do other things.
Like liking, commenting, subscribing. Yeah, follow us on Twitter and all that good old dear stuff. Rate the podcast on podcast services. Subscribe on podcast services. It's free $99, but it helps us on those services. Tell a friend.
It's true.
Okay. Goodbye.
Bye.